Hey everybody, it's the Sliders Review, and happy Asian American, Pacific Islander, and Indigenous Native American History Month. So I decided to combine these two holiday months in the same video because I'm dealing with Avatar: The Last Airbender that deals with that of Indigenous and Asian people. So, I'm here today to talk about Avatar: The Last Airbender Book 1. I have been wanting to talk about this series forever, and I mean forever. Back when it was announced that Netflix was going to make a live action series, I briefly talked about, the characters and their bio, stuff like that. I didn't really go all, that in depth and stuff. And so originally I was just going to do the entire series, but I decided, you know what, each book deserves its own, video. And so this show took the world by storm so much that I have never, ever, ever, and I mean never, found a single person who hates this cartoon series. Everybody who's ever watched this seems to love it and everything. So much so that this is why all the live action adaptations tend to get the hate that they do. The M. Night Shyamalan movie and the Netflix. Although the Netflix one fared better than the M. Night one. But still, it was criticized and stuff because of how they changed the character personalities and stuff like that around, and only being 8 episodes. So, but this show is the one that did it all back in 2005, of all things. That is how long it has been. It has, oh my God, dude, it's been that freaking long, man. Because it's 2024. And people are still talking about this cartoon today. It still holds up, and it is still the most superior series in the entire franchise. And it's one of the most superior animations just in general in America and stuff. Many people might assume this is anime, but it's not. It's an American cartoon that takes its influence from Asian culture and anime, but mostly Chinese culture and stuff. This season lasted for 20 episodes, and it had a follow-up 2 more seasons after that. Pretty much they already knew they just wanted 3 seasons to cover the 3 elements that Aang had to learn. There was at one point a 4th season talked about getting commissioned, but then that got scrapped. And then they later did the Korra series. And when I mean the creators struck gold with this series, I mean they struck gold. They didn't just strike gold, they struck lightning in a bottle, but they've never been able to replicate it. A lot of people don't tend to like the Korra series. I think it's just okay, but this show is superior. The first season of Korra was alright, but I don't know, it started to dwindle down towards the middle. I personally like season 3. That's the only one I have on DVD when it comes to Korra. But all the other seasons are just kind of to me. It's almost like I get they wanted to be different from this series. And they wanted to explore more avenues that this series never did, which makes total sense. But it was just something that was lost in that series. Plus Nickelodeon wasn't being very kind to them around that time, and the series ended up the way it did. But it's honestly, I truly feel like they've never been able to replicate this series in all its awesomeness and stuff. Now, the creators of Avatar: The Last Airbender, Dante DeMartino and Brian Koronenko, I have no idea how to say his name. These dudes knew exactly what they was doing when they was cooking. They was friends ever since 1995 when they met in college and they started working together, and they brain cooked one of the best series ever. But like I said before, they've never been able to replicate this magic, and not like in the Korra series. And originally they were working on a live action, but then they left, and then they started working. I think they created their own studio, Avatar Studios, and then Paramount. They're supposed to be coming out with like a bunch of animated movies, which has not hit the light of day yet. And some of the voice cast has already been cast for the adult versions of the last Airbender series and stuff. And no, none of the original voices come back. They all got like different people voicing them, which is kind of weird because the dude who played Aang is now older, but he doesn't work no more. He does things behind the camera. Because after Avatar The Last Airbender series, he just like disappeared and like retired from like, voice acting roles and stuff. And then, but I guess because the other people kind of sound still a little young, but the actress who plays like Katara, she sounds young. The one who voices Toph, she still sounds young. So I guess they wanted more mature, older voices and stuff, which makes sense. I just hope that like the people they get can do a good job, because these people did a good job. And it's really fascinating that both guys, created this very, very like cool Asian series and stuff, because they're not Asian whatsoever. One of their last names sound Asian, but they're not. And that confused a lot of fans. They just have like a real deep appreciation for like, the source material and stuff. And one of the things that inspired them was Cowboy Bebop, which you can kind of tell because Jet kind of looks like that dude, And so, like, this reminds me a little bit of like Teen Titans, where people think it's anime, but it's not. But they used a Korean art studio to create this show. And that Korean studio did a great job. I've seen a couple of different studios in animation over my years. I've seen French, Japanese, the Philippines, now Korean. I'm not 100% sure I've ever seen an American one, because most American cartoons aren't made in America, but I think I've seen one at one point in time. And so, yeah, they all have their own unique style, like when it comes to animation. And the animation here is, my God, gorgeous and beautiful. Like the way they're drawn, the colors, the shapes, the architecture, everything just looks so beautiful. And that's one thing the live action series kind of miss, because it's kind of like they use CGI to make a lot of their buildings in the Netflix show. In the movie, I think it was practical, but it lacked something. You could tell it was CGI. And one thing the animation does here is that they just don't animate the show, draw it and everything. They add unique colors to it and stuff. Like every once in a while, when it's like late in the afternoon, it'll have like an amber kind of look or this brownish kind of look to it. And it really makes it stand out. Not to mention, there are other little things moving around to make the bending look cool. Like when somebody's air bending, like the grass, every blade of grass will literally move and stuff. You don't see that in live action. And I remember one time when it was the Aunt Wu episode with the lady who like read the clouds and predict the future and stuff like that, they had to make a trench. So one of the little earthbender boys, he ran, hopped up in the air and hit the ground and earthbent, but the way the camera moved made it look so unique and everything, because it showed the ground moving, like pushing forward towards him as he's coming towards us. And when he hits the ground, it just keeps moving then back towards us. And it's just a great visual that they still have not replicated in live action and stuff. And it's just like, and the great thing about this is that it was hand-drawn animation. Yeah, of course, they put it on the computer to liven it up and stuff like that. But they went old school with the hand-drawn stuff. That's something you just don't see nowadays. Even in X-Men 97, it looks like flash animation, and every once in a while the action sequences look really good, but when they're standing around and walking around, it's kind of flat and very flash looking and stuff. But only in their action sequences does it look very like lively. And when the guys created this, they they took their time with this. Like, they didn't rush it whatsoever. Because I remember when I first, because I got into Avatar a little bit late. I got into Avatar right before I think the third season started. And I remember when I first saw this, I saw the weird looking animals and stuff, and I just like passed. And so one day, I don't know what it was, but it was like I was on Nickelodeon. Because see, around this time, I used to watch only Danny Phantom, Fairly Odd Parents, iCarly, and True Jackson on Nickelodeon, right? So I never watched like Avatar or anything else. And so one day, I guess like they were having reruns of Avatar from season 1. I decided to check it out. And I was very impressed by like the martial arts and the bending. And I was like, man, what is this? Why I was so mad I passed on this. So I started watching every rerun back when they had reruns on TV of season 1 and 2 to get caught up before season 3 came out. And I was like flabbergasted. I was like, man, I missed out on a good series. I'm so glad I decided to finally check it out and everything. Like, this is a very good coming of age, mature, but yet comical and everything, action-packed series that deals with that of grief, loss, love, like genocide, like, the patriarchy and everything, like one group opposing their will on like another. And it's like you don't see that in cartoon animations. And this show is very, very, very mature and everything. Like, yeah, they have their silly moments here and there. But this show is extremely dark, even to the point of showing somebody's skeleton that is dead, and literally them talking about wiping out an entire group of people. Like, that's something you just would never see in animation and stuff. And I'm really glad that they decided not to completely talk down to their audience and everything. That's the one worst thing about a lot of these kids shows nowadays. They just, and I saw a lot of live action, they want to talk down to you instead of like talking to you like you're an equal and everything. And that's one of the problems that plague a lot of modern day television, especially the animation stuff. They talk down to you. This show doesn't do that. And one great thing about this show is that its characters are flawed. They're not perfect like the Netflix series. And the Netflix series, that's one thing that bugged me, is that everybody, for the most part, is perfect. And you don't want to see that. You want to see somebody have flaws. You want to see them like struggle. You want to see them make mistakes and everything, And so when it comes to this series, a lot of the influence came from that of East Asia, Southeast Asia, North Asia, and South Asia. And the world of Avatar: The Last Airbender is broken down into 4 nations: air, water, earth, and fire. And each nation has a unique like look to it and stuff that's based on real life like Asian culture. So like, the air nomads, they're reminiscent of Tibetan monks. The Fire Nation are based on Japanese culture. The Earth Kingdom is based on Chinese culture, and the Water Tribe is based on like Insun and like indigenous type people, Eskimo people, indigenous Native American type people, which is really fascinating. And see, because one of the reasons why this show even got created is because Nickelodeon was really impressed by like Lord of the Rings and like Harry Potter. So they wanted their own little something to compete with that, and they got this in animation form. Yet in both live action forms, they still keep missing the mark. And like when it comes to that of the bending, one cool thing about this is that the bending isn't just them sticking their hand out and their powers just so happen to happen like you see in a lot of American type stuff or a lot of witchcraft type stuff. It's actually based on Asian martial arts and stuff. See, I hope I say his name right. Sifu Kiso, Kishu. I don't know how to say his name. I can't pronounce it. I'm so sorry. Um, Kishu, something like that. He's the one who came up with all the different martial art styles for this series. He used real martial art styles while also creating his own to give this show its own unique feel and vibe to it and stuff. And so each one is based on, like I said, like martial arts. Northern Shaolin was used for the Fire Nation. I can't pronounce this. It's Gua. Gua is for like the air nomads, and like Tai Chi is used for the water benders, and Hungar is used for earth bending. I remember one time I took a Tai Chi class in college. I dropped it really fast because I decided to take the class up 2 weeks into the semester. And so I wasn't caught up with everybody else, and they had already learned stuff within 2 weeks. But then I dropped it because this is when my school started changing things where every class has to have like a writing assignment. So we had to have a book, had to like research stuff. I'm all like, I'm here to learn martial arts. I'm not here to pick up a book and write like an essay and everything. So I dropped that. Another amazing thing about this series is like the animals. The animals look so different and unique. Some animals are normal, like the ones we have in real life, but other ones are a hybrid of other animals. And it helps give the show its own unique feel, which is something the live action shows tend to forget about because they don't have the budget to make either practical animals or CG animals. But every once in a while, you'll see one pop up in the show. Ben Wynn and Jeremy Zuckerman are the ones who comprise the music, and they really did come up with something that didn't sound traditional like you would hear in American cartoons. Andrea Romana, she is the legendary voice director from like Batman the animated series, Tiny Toons and stuff like that. And like she's the one who like cast like this brilliant cast of like voice actors for these roles. Sadly, I wish that there could have been better representation. I wish they could have had actual like indigenous or like Asian like voice actors to voice these roles, because the majority of them are white, and there's only like two actual Asian voice actors for like the two main roles, and then there's one for like a recurring role and stuff. And every once in a while you have like a guest star who actually be Asian. So it does suck that they couldn't get the real representation that this show could have used. But like I said before, the voice cast was like really good. And it's really interesting because Mitch Musso from Hannah Montana show, he was originally supposed to voice Aang, and he did in the pilot. But they decided to recast him when the series got picked up. And I'm glad they did. I don't like his voice. You can find clips of it on YouTube or the DVD. He just doesn't sound right as Aang. And plus, knowing him, he probably just would have got fired because that dude was like, he's one of those former bad Disney Channel stars and stuff. And it's funny how Katara name used to be, what was it? Kaya and everything before they changed it to Katara. And like Dave Filoni, that dude who's best known for like Star Wars, he directed a lot of the episodes in Avatar: The Last Airbender, especially that of the pilot and those in the first season. Of course, he went on to helm a lot of the Star Wars projects that you see nowadays. And so in the world of Avatar, it's a somewhat magical place. Like there's a spirit world and then there is the human world. And the humans, there are two different types of humans. There are normal people like you and then there are people known as benders. And benders are people who are endowed with the ability to bend certain elements, but not just any elements. There's only four: wind, water, earth, and fire. So only one bender can bend only one element, and that's it. However, there's a special bender who can bend all four elements and connect with the spiritual world, and that person is known as the Avatar. So about every 100 years or so, they are reincarnated into the next Avatar body. And so the Avatar is kind of like this like ultimate judge type person. They're like the judge, jury, and executioner. They are supposed to maintain balance and peace between both that of the human world and the spiritual world and stuff. And they have this extra ability known as the Avatar state, where their eyes will glow and they have the combined knowledge and strength of all the avatars that came before them and stuff. And it gives them like an extra boost of light power. And so, like, at one point in time, the Fire Nation decided it's like the most ruthless out of all like the nations. Like the air nomads, they're enlightened, they're peaceful, but they're a bit of a hermit. The water tribe are pretty much peace-going people, but some of the males are very stuck up and won't let the females do certain things. The Earth Kingdom, they are brutes and everything, very stubborn and pig-headed, whereas the Fire Nation just think they are superior above everybody else and want to take over the world. And a lot of them are very mean and very rude. All the benders have to like use a source in order to bend, but the fire benders, they can create their own heat source and everything, which gives them an extra advantage. Basically, in every season, there's always a main antagonist, and they're supposed to be more powerful than the other ones that came before. So firebenders are supposed to be like, very powerful because they can create their own fire. In the second season, one person fire burns blue hotter than everybody else and they can shoot lightning. Then in the third season, there's a person who can fire bend from their forehead through like a third eye on their head, which is never really explained. And they can make things blow up. Basically, they tried a little too hard with that dude. That's why he didn't last that long in the third season, but hey, whatever. And so, like, the Fire Nation, every bender gets their powers enhanced by the source that gives them their power. And since the sun gives firebenders their power, when a comet known as Sozin's Comet went over the Earth, they decided to use that to take over the world. But a comet doesn't last that long traveling over the Earth, so they had to plan their attack very strategically. So they decided, since the current Avatar was part of the Fire Nation, the next one would be part of the Air Nomads. So they decided to stage their attacks with them primarily and everything. So, with Sozin's Comet, because Fire Lord Sozin named it after him, they used the power of the comet to wipe out every air nomad there was, including all their airbenders and stuff. After that, the comet pretty much passed and they just had their regular firebending. Now, most likely, they probably went to the southern water tribe to stage a second attack. But by that time, they wasn't endowed with the extra power that they needed. But they decided, since they took out the air nomads and everything, the next bender will be water. So, for over 100 years, they've been waging war on that of the two water tribes and the Earth Kingdom. And it's been really hard and they haven't been too successful. They've been able to pretty much dismantle the entire Southern Water Tribe to where they capture all their water benders and stuff. And when it comes to that of the Northern Water Tribe, they haven't even touched that because they were unable to get there in time to like wage war, and they have plenty of benders there that are very powerful and stuff. So they just decided to hold off on that. But the Earth Kingdom is vast, so they had to work really fast to take them over. And they managed to conquer the entire Earth Kingdom except for two major cities, Ba Sensei and Omashu. So the rest of the Earth Kingdom is under Fire Nation rule, to where a lot of people are refugees and everything, and plenty of firebenders and their soldiers live in the Earth Kingdom and boss people around, trying to capture every earthbender that they can and imprison them. They don't want to kill none of these benders because one of them could be the Avatar, and once the Avatar is dead, it'll just get reincarnated into the next one and stuff. But every once in a while they will kill a bender, with Katara's mother and stuff. So when it comes to that of Aang, he was the next Avatar in line after Avatar Roku, who was part of the Fire Nation. And so Aang was missing for 100 years, but then later found in a block of ice by that of Katara and Sokka. So they decide they're going to take him around the world so he can learn water bending from the Northern Water Tribe, and then later learn Earth, and then later learn Fire, so he can defeat the Fire Nation and defeat the Fire Lord. But Aang has a problem. He has to do it before the summer's end and everything, because Sozin's comet will return and Fire Lord Ozai will try to burn the entire planet. And Aang is nothing more but a 12-year-old kid who doesn't want the responsibility of being that of the Avatar. He's a goofy little kid who just wants to play around, and he has the weight of the world on his shoulders, even more so because he disappeared for 100 years. And he blames himself, along with other people in the world, for him disappearing and allowing the Fire Nation to do what they have done. So when it comes to the individual characters, you have Jet, who's a vigilante renegade type dude, who's pretty much a freedom fighter. So he's always trying to stop Fire Nation propaganda and stuff like that by blowing up as many as their towers and their armies as he can with his freedom fighters, who are nothing more but a bunch of kids, and he's a teenager. He's the one who's most based on Cowboy Bebop. The problem with him is that he has no restraint. He will take out an entire village that has Fire Nation people in there, even if the people there have done nothing wrong. And so because of that, Team Avatar has to stop him from doing what he's doing, because he's allowing that of the trauma of him losing his family to the Fire Nation to go and just kill innocent people. And it comes in a conflict, and he tries to even persuade people. He always tries to use their pain and suffering to get them on his side, like Katara and Sokka. It doesn't work on Sokka, but it kind of works on Katara until she can see the light of day, when he tries to sacrifice Sokka in order to get what he wants and stuff. And he also becomes a love interest of that of Katara. Haru is a young earthbender who practices earthbending in secret. The Fire Nation controls his village, and they collect every earthbender there is, including that of his father. When Katara and them find out, she urges him to start using his earthbending, but he doesn't want to, until an old man is trapped under some rock. So Haru uses his bending, and the old man turns him in. This is what causes Katara to take up a leadership role and want to free the earthbenders. So she pretends to be an earthbender, gets taken to the prison camp, and she persuades the earthbenders to revolt. But they don't want to because their spirit has been broken. But through the words of encouragement that she gives them, they find the strength within themselves to escape and everything. Haru ended up becoming the first love interest of that of Katara. Pretty much Katara and Sokka always have like two love interests, and Aang only has one. And the Mechanist, he is a refugee from the Earth Kingdom. Him, his son, and the rest of the refugees went to the Northern Air Temple. He is voiced by the actor who played Odo in Star Trek Deep Space Nine, Renee. I can't remember his last name, but sadly he passed away. And so the Mechanist is a very kooky type person who's just really silly and off the walls, but he is highly intelligent, like extremely intelligent, and can invent almost anything. Well, while there, Aang is really pissed off because he pretty much destroyed the Northern Air Temple to put all of his mechanical stuff there, disrespecting the temple and stuff. When Aang opened up the door that could only be opened by airbending, he realized that there are weapons in there. Fire Nation weapons. The Mechanists have been building weapons for that of the Fire Nation because when they found the temple, they were going to destroy it. And he begged and pleaded. So they said, all right, work for us and you can stay here. But, you know, so after everybody gets pissed at him, he realizes he's going to do the right thing. And so him and Sokka and the rest of everybody else, they've staged an attack on the Fire Nation that's coming there for their next like round of weapons and stuff. He is the one who created the war balloon and everything that will be seen later on in season 2. Uncle Iroh, voiced by the legendary and late Mako, may he rest in peace. And he's a very interesting and complex character because he's mysterious. When we first see him, he's just this big, goofy, like uncle who loves to drink tea. Like he's obsessed with drinking tea and he loves to eat. And he's accompanying his nephew on his mission. And he seems like he's a very incapable person until you realize he's one of the smartest people on this show. When he's captured, he's able to find a way to have his nephew like pick up his trail and everything. He's able to get out of the clutches of earthbenders who want to pretty much hang him because of what he did to Ba Sensei. For 100 days, he laid siege on Ba Sensei, and he was unable to break the city. So he fled and stuff. But he doesn't feel bad about doing that, because he's actually a whole lot nicer than people expect. I'm not going to spoil this one part because we don't find that out until later. But he had a son who died, and he reveals to Zuko that he thinks of him like his son. And that's why he puts up with all of Zuko's, rudeness and stuff. Because he lost his son many years ago, but we'll find that out more in season 2 when I talk about that. We'll also find out why he's not like Fire Lord and stuff in season 3. But then one interesting thing is that there's a lot of foreshadowing. Like they call him the Dragon of the West, but we don't know why. He loves Pai Sho and he loves the White Lotus tile, but that's just like little seeds planted for next season and stuff. But the most fascinating thing is that we find out towards the end that he has actually crossed over into the spirit world at one point. And he has a deep love and appreciation for the spirit world and doesn't want it disrupted. So when Zhao decides to make the unbalance of the moon and the ocean spirit, he gets furious and stuff. And even though he is part of the Fire Nation, and the Fire Nation is supposed to be evil, he proves that there are some good, kind-hearted people within that of the Fire Nation. Admiral Zhao, who looks like a monkey with those mutton chops and everything, he is voiced by Jason Isaacs. And he is a ruthless general who later gets promoted to admiral. And he does not like Prince Zuko whatsoever. His whole thing is he wants to get high up in the ranks and prove himself to the Fire Lord. When he finds out that the Avatar is alive and everything, he wants to be the one to capture him. But the problem is Zuko is after the Avatar. So he becomes an antagonist not only to Team Avatar, but that of Zuko. And even to the point of trying to like Adney Kai Zuko and trying to shoot him from behind, only for Iroh to like stop him and stuff. And not only that, but like he even hires these pirates to try to kill Zuko. It is revealed, some seeds are planted, that when he was just a lieutenant back in the day, he stumbled upon a very special library in that of the Earth Kingdom. And doing his research, he found the living body spirits of the moon and ocean spirit. So he knows that waterbenders get their powers from like the moon and like, the ocean, but mostly just the moon. And so if he can take that out, then he can conquer the water tribe and stuff, which is something that has not been conquered in the north. So he captures the moon spirit and kills it and everything. But then when that happens, like, a battle starts and then the ocean spirit decides to take him out. And we find his fate of what happened to him many years later in the Korra series. Basically, he's trapped in the spirit world and has gone mad. Prince Zuko is our main antagonist of season 1. And he's been tasked with finding the Avatar. He is the next in line to be Fire Lord, but he's been banished by his father. He was banished because he spoke out of line during like a war meeting and everything and disrespected a general. Because of that, he was forced into an Adney Kai with his father, but he did not want to fight his father because he loves his father. That, and he's terrified of him, but he loves him most importantly. His dad did not care and saw his weakness as like this, even more disrespectful and everything, and decided to banish him and burn half his face to where he has a huge scar, which still both live adaptations can't get his scar right. And so he hates the way he looks because he thinks he's a monster, but his scar is his shame. He lost his honor. And his whole thing is he wants to regain his honor, which is something you never hear in the Netflix show. You never hear him say the word honor and stuff. But this is why he is so adamant about finding the Avatar, no matter what it takes. And I mean what it takes. He'll put his crew through a hurricane. He will, set villages on fire. He'll beat up whoever he has to in order to get the Avatar. He's always telling people like, hey, like Qatar, if you just hand over the Avatar, I'll leave you alone, which made people think he might have a crush on her or something. But like, he is a very mean, hot-headed, rude little boy. He never wants to listen to his uncle, even to the point where his uncle is trying to tell him, hey, look, man, you need to do this when you firebend, and when you're out in the snow, you need to control your fire breath and all that to keep you warm. But he doesn't listen, even to the point of nearly freezing almost to death and everything. He's so pig-headed because he thinks he has everything under control, but he doesn't. He's just a lost little confused boy. But he's an excellent fighter, but he's not as great as like others in the Fire Nation and stuff. Aang is always able to whoop his behind, and even Katara at one point when she starts to learn bending more. And it's because the more pissed off he gets, the more unfocused he gets. And so like, he is just like, he has some redeeming qualities. Like, he loves his uncle, even though he treats him disgustingly and nasty at times. And he treats his crew like crap and everything. When it comes to like capture the Avatar in the finale, like I said before, he doesn't even stop to think that, he's out there in the ice and like he's swimming in cold water, slowing down his body. He tries to fight Qatar, and to the point where he's finally now able to win because, the sun rose and stuff. But like, he takes the Avatar out until like the open like field, almost like a desert of snow, to where he just can't maintain no more. And like, he's literally freezing and stuff, to the point where Katara and them find him and she whoops his behind and they're about to leave him for dead, but Aang decided not to. One of the most fascinating things about him is the whole blue spirit thing. That entire episode was cool and had some great action, but then there was this person known as the Blue Spirit with these two twin broadswords that freed the Avatar, and nobody knew exactly who that was. And so when they got struck down by an arrow and the mask fell off, it was shocking to reveal it was Zuko. So this made people think, did he turn good all of a sudden? No, he just wanted to capture the Avatar for himself. So Aang tried to talk some reason to him. And Aang told him, I used to have friends in the Fire Nation 100 years ago and stuff. And maybe, just maybe, if things could be different, do you think we could be friends? And this is this moment where you don't know what Zuko's going to do, because he's just looking at Aang, contemplating stuff. But then all of a sudden, he starts shooting fireballs at the dude, because he just wants to capture him no matter what. John is a fire-bending master, and he's a deserter. He left the Fire Nation because he used to be a general, and he took his men with him because he just couldn't stand the hatred that his people have for everybody else. So he lives his life as a hermit. And so when Aang wants to be taught firebending way before he should, he refuses to until Avatar Roku forces him to do it. Basically, he is Zhao's former teacher. And, he tells, he doesn't want to teach Aang whatsoever, and he's very hard on him. One thing I've noticed, a lot of people are hard on the Avatar when it comes to teaching him stuff, because, he goofs around and stuff like that, and they feel he's just not ready because he's just a goofy kid. But he bonds with that Katara, and when he finds out she has healing abilities and how gifted and how that is and how he wishes he could do it. It has to take a lot for a person to betray their own kind just because they know, their people are evil. King Bumi is the king of Umashu, and he's Aang's former friend from 100 years ago. People here can live for a long time. And so when they was kids, they used to goof around and play. But then Aang disappeared, and Bumi just later on became a king. He wasn't a king before or no prince, so they never explained that, because he seemed to be just like a regular person. And this is why Aang couldn't recognize him, because he should have figured out that, hey, you're Bumi, but he didn't. This is a problem the Netflix show had, because they had Aang just figure it out like within seconds. But here, Bumi wants to train Aang in the ways of thinking like a mad genius, and most importantly, he just wants to play with his friend for one last time, because he is over 100 years old. He's about 112 as well, and you ain't gonna last forever. So he missed out on 100 years, and he just wants to play with his friend. So he puts Aang through all of these tasks and puts his friend's life in danger by this rock that forms on their body within a couple of minutes. So Aang literally has to do all these tasks, and he's pissed, and he's also confused because the king is just so odd. But then he gives Aang this one important question of what's my name and everything. And so Aang has to literally think about all the stuff that he did and all the tasks he had to do. And he finally realized, oh wait, he'd been thinking like a mad genius, just like his friend told him 100 years ago. And it was cool to see those two embrace and stuff like that. And because Katara and them was never in danger. It was just like rock candy and stuff. Suki, voiced by Jenny Kwan. She is a Kyoshi warrior. Basically, they took up the look of Avatar Kyoshi, who was about 400 years ago. And so, they fight with fans. They are not benders, and they reside in the Earth Kingdom. They are highly skilled warriors. And when Sokka meets them, when they meet Team Avatar, they ambush them, which causes Sokka to think he's been ambushed by guys, but finds out it's women and can't believe it, because he's very a male chauvinist pig and everything. So After embarrassing him a couple of times in like a training section, he finally decides to be humble and starts to respect women. This causes Suki to form a bit of a crush on him and give him the first kiss on like the cheek by that of a girl. And so she will be a more prominent character in later seasons. June is a Earth Kingdom like bounty hunter with a Sishu that sees through smelling, and basically she has no allegiance, and if you pay her enough she'll do the job. She's a very cool, fierce looking woman, and in the live action depiction they changed her personality. Momo and Appa. Appa is like the bison that belongs to Aang, a very friendly creature who will help him fight. Then Momo is somebody he found like, at a temple and stuff, and he just loves to eat and everything. Princess Yue ends up being the second love interest of that of Sokka, and she is the princess of that of Northern Water tribe. And at birth, she couldn't open her eyes or even make a noise. So her father prayed to the ocean and moon spirit, and the moon spirit endowed her with like power to, make her like normal like everybody else. When the moon spirit was captured and later killed by Zhao, she used the last bit of magic that was inside of her to give it back to that of the moon spirit. And then sadly, she faded away, leaving Sokka heartbroken. She was a very complex character because she was betrothed to this butt-headed guy who she didn't even love, but she really liked it Sokka at love at first sight. Sokka. So Sokka, he is voiced by that of Jack D. Senna. And so Sokka's a very interesting character. He's the oldest male in his tribe, and all the men have left the war, including his father. His sister is Qatar, and all the other little kids he has to take care of, even if they're like boys or girls. Sokka, since all the men have been gone for many years, he sees himself as kind of like, the man of the hut or whatever, or the man of the tribe. And because of that, he has a really bad view on women. He doesn't think girls are capable of doing anything other than like cooking and sewing and stuff like that. And it's the men who go hunting and fighting and stuff. And so we see this male chauvinist pig routine in the pilot and in the episode where he meets Suki, and that is it. See, a lot of fans were really upset when the Netflix show was going to erase his male chauvinist ways because, it's modern times, it's post-Me Too movement, and they feel like it wouldn't be a good fit for the series. This angered fans. It's all like, Sokka being sexist is who he is. It's who he is throughout the entire season. It's who he is through the entire series. And I keep telling people, no, it is not. It was only 2 episodes and 2 episodes only, and it's very, very brief and everything. So if they were to take that out, it wouldn't really matter. Yes, it does. It is a huge character development for him, like a massive one and everything. But it's not like entirely who he is. So like I said before, if they were to have all his other traits, like him being a warrior and being really smart, it would be okay to forget that trait. But the Netflix show really didn't do that either. But yeah, it's only through like Suki and getting his butt kicked and embarrassed that it causes him to start to respect women. Now, Sokka is a very goofy character. He's silly, he's always making corny jokes, and he loves to eat. But he loves to eat meat more than anything else. He's a skilled fighter, but not that skilled because even Zuko can beat his behind. But is working on Team Avatar where he hones his skills a whole lot better. See, he thinks he's probably like the greatest warrior there is, but it takes him getting kicked on his butt, like, to realize he's not. Now, he is very, very intelligent. In fact, he's the brains of that entire team. He's really good at like creating stuff and like, strategizing and coming up with a plan of attack and like I said before, inventing stuff. So when he meets the mechanists and everything, they did a better job here than they did in live action. And so like he has all these skills. It's just he needs to hone them a whole lot better. But for the most part, a lot of people see him as like the leader of Team Avatar because he's the one always bossing people around and stuff like that. He wants nothing more but to be with his father, but he's unable to because his father is out at war fighting the Fire Nation. It's even to the point where Sokka couldn't even dodge icebergs on the boat and everything because of the fact that his father left when he was at a very young age. Katara, voiced by Mae Whitman, is the waterbender and sister to that of Sokka. She also becomes a love interest of Aang in one episode. Katara is a very cool character, but she is very flawed. See, Katara was the last waterbender of her tribe. When the Fire Nation came, her mother hid her and lied and said she was a waterbender, thinking they would take her to a prison camp. But instead, he killed her right then and there. And Katara witnessed all that when she was a little girl. Because of this, she's never really been able to practice her bending, but every once in a while she'll do it, which pisses off Sokka. She is the one, they are the one who find Aang and the iceberg. And she tries to free him with a weapon, but then when Sokka, first what happened is, I think, which one was it first? Did she try to free him first with the weapon, or did it was her bending? Anyway, at some point in time, Sokka pisses her off, talking about you're a girl and bending stupid and this and that. And when she gets very, very angry, and we've seen this twice before, both in the pilot and towards the end of the series, she can crack large icebergs of ice or the ground with just her feet with bending, which we've never really seen no other waterbender do. It's almost like a level of earthbending kind of. And so waterbenders can bend the water, but they can also freeze it. And when she meets Aang and everything, she didn't even know he was the Avatar. And then when she finds out, she felt it was up to her and her brother to help him, in the war. So they go on him with his journey and stuff. And when they do, the thing about Katara is, like I said before, she's headstrong, but she makes a lot of mistakes. She's very stubborn. She's very loud. She's very angry at times. She carries her emotions on her shoulder. And that's something the live action series did not do. It's even to the point where she wants to teach Aang waterbending, and she gets jealous when he can do things better than her. And she steals that of a waterbending scroll from pirates who stole it from a waterbender. And she's supposed to give it to Aang so he can learn, but she wants to learn the techniques herself and starts being very hoggish of it. Even to the point where she will hurt either her brother's feelings or Aang's feelings whenever she sees fit and everything. And so she's not a perfect character, but she does end up being one. Her bending is very bleak in the entire first season. She can't really do much. And when she does, she's kind of scared. But she practiced over time, off screen. The biggest time we ever saw her really use it in a fighting is probably against Jet. But other than that, we really don't see her use it all that much. This is before she started carrying a water sack with her to create her bending, and she would just use whatever body of water that was near her. And so, despite being rude and everything, she is very nice and kind-hearted, and she's the mother figure of the group. But it's over time, because of the water scroll and everything, the waterbending scroll, we will see her advance her waterbending on her own, but not to great detail. But she's still able to carry her own and everything. She's a very smart girl. But it's when they get to the northern water tribe, and she sees how sexist the male benders are, because they won't teach her because she's a girl. This is when she unleashes all her fury, and we see her water bend like never before. to the point where she's able to keep up with the waterbending master. But she is no match for him. But when he finds out that her betrothal necklace is the one that he gave her grandmother, he stops and decides he's gonna change his sexist ways, teach women bending, and teach her how to be a master. So by the start of season 2, she is now a water bending master and everything, and she helps Aang on his water bending. And unlike the live action version, like I said before, she's not perfect. She has her flaws, which makes her great and everything. Aang, who is voiced by Zach Taylor Eisen, he is this dude was born to play Aang. Like, he was really young at this time, so he sounded like an actual kid. He is the Avatar, a goofy little kid who's an air nomad and an air-bending prodigy and everything, but he's not an air-bending master, because when he finds out that he is the Avatar, the monks want to teach him some advanced moves that Aang has never done before. But Aang is very creative, creating an air scooter and everything. Aang just loves to play, and he loves life. He loves animals. He loves nature. He's a vegetarian. And so when he finds out that he is the Avatar, he doesn't want to be the Avatar, because his friends start to treat him differently. They're all like, well, now since you're the Avatar and everything, it won't be fair to play with you, airball and stuff like that, because you're more advanced than us and stuff. And so they don't want nothing to do with him. Then he's told, well, he finds out by eavesdropping that he has to leave the Southern Air Temple because, I think his name is Gyatso, Monk Gyatso, he treats him like a son. We don't know where Aang's parents are or whatever happened to them. And so he doesn't want to leave him and everything. So he decides he's going to write a note and run away. Not clear his head like the Netflix series. And when he runs away, he gets trapped in a hurricane storm. And it's where he is drowning that his Avatar state kicks in. And it forms it freezes the ice around him, which keeps him alive for 100 years. Now, Aang does not know how to go in and out of the Avatar state. One of the cool things in the series is that Aang is an extremely powerful bender, and he has untapped raw potential in his Avatar state. He always gets triggered into the state, and he always gets knocked out of it. He can't go in and out by himself. He doesn't know how. And when he is in the Avatar state, it's normally triggered by his anger and everything. And when it does, he becomes a very scary person. His eyes and tattoos glow, and he levitates in the air with his air bending and stuff. Now, air is the only bending skill he knows. But I believe that he actually did water bend for the first time, unbeknownst to him, when he was drowning. See, all of his past life spirits reside in his body. So all those avatars were all their knowledge. And Avatar Roku, he knows that Sozin's Comet is coming again, because he wasn't there for the first one because he died. And we'll find out about that in season 3. But it's his greatest failure and everything. And he wasn't there to teach Aang how to be like an avatar and stuff like he was supposed to. So I believe that Roku and the other avatars and everything, realizing that the Fire Nation is evil, 100 years of war, Aang is the last avatar there is, and if he dies, then the next one will be reincarnated into water, and the Fire Nation will just wipe out that civilization as well. So I believe his past lives took over his body triggered his avatar state and caused him to water bend a giant like globe around his body and stuff. Cause like and so that kept him safe for 100 years, because they knew the comet was coming very soon, and the air nomads got wiped out. See, if they would have just caused Aang to come out the ocean, he would have got killed by the Fire Nation. So I believe they helped set that in motion of him being trapped under ice for 100 years, just so the Fire Nation won't be able to like kill him and stuff. And so, like, when he does wake because of Katara and stuff, he just wants to play and goof around until he doesn't even want to believe that the Fire Nation is evil, because he knew them as nice people. And, like, you know, he doesn't believe that the air nomads are dead. So it takes some good convincing, and takes a trip to the Southern Air Temple where he sees the destruction that was left behind. And also the skeleton of, like, you know, his former like teacher. It takes Katara's love and compassion to like knock him out of the avatar state. And so the interesting thing about Aang that goes on throughout the entire series, not just the first, is that Aang is actually a failure in everything. Cause like he can fight some soldiers, he can fight some bad guys, and he can fight some firebenders and stuff, and he can win against them, right? But every season finale, he ends up either getting his butt kicked or he flees and everything, because he's a scared little 112-year-old kid. And because it's like, okay, when you get to the finale of season 1, he tries to stop the Fire Nation on his own by taking out as many ships as he can, but there are hundreds and stuff. He just can't take them out. So he's like cowering, wondering what can he do. He can't stop him. He's not strong enough. It is with the help of the ocean spirit that takes over his body along with the avatar state. And that is how he's able to defeat the Fire Nation at the Northern Water Temple. In the other 2 seasons, he gets his butt kicked by Azula. And then in the third, Ozai kicks his butt so bad that he flees until he's triggered into the Avatar state. And with the Avatar state, he's finally able to like defeat the evil people and stuff. So it's kind of like he is a hero and he can win, but he's always failing and stuff. But one of the great things about the animation is filler. But all the filler, we see him becoming a better avatar. He still is goofing around and doesn't want to take nothing seriously. He won't even tell his newfound friends that what happened and why he deserted the world for 100 years and stuff, because he's very ashamed of what he did. When he fled, you know, it was 100 years of war and people suffered and died. Katara's mom died as a result and everything. Their father left to fight in the war. So he is very much responsible for that. But like I said, if he would have been there, he would have died and stuff. And, you know, and one thing about him, he's very vain. He loves his celebrity status and everything. When people find out he's the Avatar, he does like the celebrity wave and everything. And he loves it, but he hates it when people hate on him for disappearing for like 100 years or not caring that he's the Avatar and stuff. And so it's throughout this season that he slowly, and I mean slowly, starts to mature a bit more. He, during the Great Divide, where these two, like, you know, villages hate each other, he has to do what he can to make them come together and everything, even if it means lying to them and stuff. When he meets Haybot is very pissed off because, like, the forest has been destroyed. And so when Sokka goes into the spirit world and is captured by him, he has to go and get him back. And he tells Haybot, like, he was pissed just like he was and everything, but, like, you know, the forest will grow back and everything. Then when he has to figure out how to stop the Fire Nation at the end of the season, he wants to talk to like the moon and like the ocean spirit. So he goes into like the spirit world and everything, and he has to talk to Ko. And if you show any emotions to Ko and everything, then like, he will steal your face. So he has to be as calm as possible, which is hard for him because he's a silly, goofy kid who has a range of emotions. And like, it's always cool to see Avatar Roku, like, talk to him and like this and that. But one of Aang's second greatest failures is when he burnt Qatar. See, each avatar is supposed to learn each bending through like the avatar line, through the bending line and everything. First is air, water, earth, and fire. So say you're born of the earth kingdom, then the next one in line for you to learn would be fire, then air. So he is supposed to learn fire last and everything, but he's too stubborn. He thinks it's so cool to make fire and he wants to try it right then and there. So he's not listening to John and nothing like that. And he's just doing what he wants to. And as a result, he burns Katara's hands. And because of that, he is so ashamed and like hurt by that because he hurt a girl he's like in love with and stuff. And he hurt his friend. And so that teaches him to calm his behind down and slow down. But, this is when he goes to the Northern Water tribe with Paku, and it's there that, like, he's taking his time to learn how to bend. Now, this has been adapted twice. M. Night Shyamalan did a movie about a decade ago, and he cast nothing but white actors and Indian actors. The Indian ones played the Fire Nation, while the white played everybody else. This was seen as racist because he made the dark-skinned people the evil people and made the white people the good people. And not to mention, there are not supposed to be no white people in this series, or even Indian for that matter, or like Muslim descent. It's supposed to be like Eskimo type people and Asian type people. This movie was a colossal failure. They changed so much around that it didn't even feel like Avatar The Last Airbender. Their bending was now a form of like, a dance. And the Fire Nation had to use a fire source to create that fire. And it took like 5 earthbenders to earthbend one like rock. It was a disaster. Then there is the Netflix series that came out just like a year ago. I've already reviewed that. It's a decent show, but it's not great. They only had 8 episodes, so they had to cram a lot of stuff in. And they changed just about everybody's personality around to where it didn't feel like them. And they made too many characters feel like perfect and stuff when they're supposed to have flaws. There was no true raw emotion, and it just felt off and everything. It's not as bad as M. Night's movie, but like it's just something just feels off with it. So this series is phenomenal. I can't stress how great it is. If you're able to get on DVD, if you're able to see it on streaming, watch it. It is literally like 100 out of 100 for the most part and everything. And it's just so much better than every live action adaptation and the other animated series that followed it afterwards.